Measuring angles is extremely important for vectors that aren't 180 degrees apart. So this lesson is going to show us how to measure an angle with a technique that seems to work very well. So I'm going to take my farm tractor, my pulling tractor, my garden tractor, my protractor. I'm going to take my protractor. I'm going to put this little fisheye, I know it's hard to see, I'll zoom in, put that little fisheye right on the point of the angle. But before I do that, I'm going to come over here on my horizontal line and I'm going to put an arrow right there. Doesn't have to be a pretty arrow, just an arrow. I'm going to show you why that's there in a second. So I'm going to take my fisheye and I'm going to put it right over the point of that angle and make sure it's really, really right on the money. Once I get it there, and again, take your time. Once I get it there, so now my fisheye is right there on the point of the angle, my horizontal line follows down, and there's an arrow out here. Now here's why that's important. Because if I go up here, and when I was younger, I couldn't figure out, well, gee, I got two numbers here. Is it 141 or is it 39 degrees? And that was really tough to figure out. I'm like, well, it fits both. How does it work? Well, here's how I remember how to do that. If I have an arrow on my line that is 0, I always count up. Think about when you count numbers, you count 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't count 180, 170, 160, 150 unless you're counting backwards. Most of the time we count up. So we're going to count up 10, 20, 39. So this angle is 39 degrees. So that's why that arrow's there, to give us a starting point so we know we start counting at 0 or we start measuring from the 0 that the arrow points at. Let's bounce down here and try another one. Again, I'm going to take my line, I'm going to throw an arrow on one end. Again, I'm doing it on the right side of my horizontal, and that's going to come back to help us out later on. I'm going to take my my protractor, and I'm going to put my protractor, so this little fisheye right there is right on the intersection of the line. And that my 0 line lines up with one of the two lines. It doesn't matter which line, it just has to line up with one of the two. Then, because my arrow's here, I start counting here and count up from where the arrow is, from the 0 where the arrow is pointing at, up to my new angle. And if I zoom in, I can see this is about 63 degrees. About 63, maybe 64. It's tough to see on the camera. So I'm going to call it 63.5 degrees. Or that would be 63 degrees 30 minutes. Not that we need to know that, but we'll stick with half a degree. I could do the same thing with this angle. So here's another angle. Now for math class, they talk about acute, less than 90 degrees, and obtuse, larger than 90 degrees. For me, the terminology is not that important. The important part is knowing how to measure an angle. I'm going to put an arrow down here again. Again, I'm just doing it on a horizontal line. I could do it on this angled line up here. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to put my fisheye right on the intersection again. So I'm going to take my time, get that right on the money, because the more accurate that is, the more accurate our measurement is. You have to make sure that everything's lined up. So the fisheye is right on the intersection and the 0 is lined up with the line. Perfect. Again, I start counting from the 0 that the arrow's pointing at. So the arrow's pointing off to the right. I start at this 0 and I start counting 10, 20, 30, 40 all the way up to, look at this. Is it 65 or 115? Well, we started counting way over here at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and we're going to stay on the bottom, and it's going to be 115 degrees. 115 degrees. So remember, to quickly review, we're going to put an arrow on our horizontal line because it's just convenient, it's easy to do. I'm going to take my protractor up here, I'm going to set my protractor on that line. I'm going to make sure the 0 lines up and my fisheye is right there on the intersection of the angle. Right here. It's got to be right there. If it's not, it'll be off. And then I start counting from 0 that the arrow points at. Good luck and try the assignment.